Today, we're getting into a paper by S.C. Sayles, Chapter 10, specifically from the work The Eclipse of the Mind, How Modern Minds Lost Reality. Big topic, right? The core question the chapter asks is, how has technology quietly and comprehensively reshaped not just what we do, but who we are deep down at the level of the soul? Why does that even matter, you might wonder? Well, Sayles contends it means, literally, our experience of reality is filtered, bent, and sometimes even replaced by the digital world around us. Let's dig in. The paper explores the idea that technology is no longer an external tool, some neutral hammer or calculator we pick up and put down. Rather, according to Sayles, it's more like the very air young people breathe. The platforms, screens and feeds aren't just changing our behavior, they're changing how we see, how we feel, even how we know ourselves. What's so striking here is the claim that the self, your sense of who am I, is now constructed or maybe even manufactured through these digital environments. You become both the actor and the audience, watching yourself perform your own life, then curating or editing it for invisible online observers. Think about that. The idea that authenticity, just being yourself, is getting replaced by visibility and performance. Is your life only real after it's posted? How does this happen? Sayles doesn't just blame distraction or say kids these days have no attention span. He goes further, suggesting that the digital world is like an architecture or an environment that rewards immediacy, speed, spectacle. When your attention is endlessly captured by notifications, scrolling, whatever, that changes your very ability to dwell in silence, to focus, to be receptive to anything deeper. And here's another twist. The chapter talks about the rise of simulacra, which is kind of a fancy word for simulations or digital images that don't just represent reality, but actually begin to replace it. The more we live in these curated feeds, the more real the image feels compared to, say, a sunset you just experience. Over time, the soul, again, Sayles uses soul in this broad sense, may start to want the image of an experience more than the experience itself. Sayles also sketches what he calls the fragmentation of identity. Basically, when you're existing across multiple platforms, maintaining different personas, your sense of unity, of being one consistent self, starts to dissolve. You're a series of fragments, roles, performances. None are false, but none are whole either, at least according to his argument. And here's the kicker. All this leads to a state where we become spectators of our own lives, sometimes more interested in the representation than the real thing. Sayles even suggests that the digital world displaces our deep need for affirmation from, like, God or community, and replaces it with validation from algorithms and anonymous audiences. How many likes did you get? Did your story trend that becomes the measure of significance even worth? But the paper doesn't end on a note of despair. According to Sayles, what has been eclipsed can actually be restored. Recovery starts, he says, not with digital detox or just limiting screen time, but with a radical return to participation in reality. That's attention, embodiment, silence, solitude, all these practices that help you be present, not just performing for a digital world, but living, grounded in the actual world. He invokes, like, contemplation, worship, or just quiet, unshared moments as ways to center yourself again. But what I think listeners can take away is this. Technology isn't neutral, and the digital world shapes us in ways we often don't see. So, the next time you're scrolling, maybe ask yourself, how am I being formed by this environment? Is my real self showing up, or am I just living for the image? And what might I discover if I put the phone down and just experience the moment without an audience?